Hello, everyone. Hello, welcome. I'm getting ready to start the show now.
Welcome to another episode of Your Voice Matters.
Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to Your Voice Matter. Good afternoon, and welcome. I am your girl, Viv Cunningham, with Preferred Real Estate Brokers selling the American Dream here in Central Florida. So today we have a panel of investors. We have a panel of realtors. Lenders are going to be coming on, and inspection is going to be coming on. But today we have a panel of whether you are doing credit repair, whether you are doing a home inspection, or you are looking to invest in a property. And this is the panel for you today. So let's welcome all our guests. We have quite a few people that are listening in the audience. Let's welcome our guests. We have Andy Talbot, and we have Mona Atkinson with Atkinson Inspection, and Dwayne. So we're going to have Mona and Dwayne take the floor, and let's talk about inspection. We're going to talk about inspection first. The lender is not on. Normally, we would talk about the lender first, but we'll talk about inspection. What are some of the things? And let me tell you, these are my favorite inspectors. I am so honored to have you guys on. But this here, we're just going to tell the audience what it is, some of the things that we do when it's inspecting a house. And a lot of time when investors are on here, a lot of time when we buy a house, and if the house is an investor, sometimes the investor will go ahead and skip their inspection. But normally, if it's a regular traditional house that we are buying and it's a finance home, I will never have anyone skip their inspection. And I teach a first-time home buyers class, and normally, I always tell the audience, I always tell the class, the students, I say, don't skip your inspection, and keep in mind that there's a lot of inspection, whether you're talking about the well, the septic, the termite, the roof, the regular house inspection. So there's so many different moving parts to the inspection. So I'm going to have Miss Mona jump right in, and Mr. Dwayne jump right in and start talking about what do you do once I send you a client and the client is under contract. Talk a little bit about what you do with the inspection and the different types of inspection that the buyer will need, or the seller. Hang on, let me make sure I can hear you. Go ahead. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. We do home 4-point, wind mids, termites, water testing, mold assessments. And a home inspection is to make sure all the components and systems are working properly for you to make an educated decision. A home inspector professional opinion of the conditions of the homes. The report is important to a buyer, not only for purposes of learning, but the conditions of the systems and components, but also to help in negotiating repairs if necessary with the seller.
Yes, and that's really important. That's I had somebody send me they posted on a multiple listing service last week. So I put in the offer, almost got it accepted, but it wasn't really accepted. But anyway, she ended up putting on the MLS. She didn't put what kind of contract to put the offer on. So when I don't see on the MLS an instruction of, is it an as is or is it a traditional, I go ahead and put it on a traditional. She sends me back the contract and says the seller is reviewing the other offers that's on a traditional. I said, what do you mean? I don't understand that. She says that because you put yours on a traditional and the others put yours on an as is. I said, but you know what, they didn't follow instruction. You said you didn't tell me what to put that on. And I ended up putting it just on a regular contract. So why are you not having my seller, look at my offer when I followed the instruction and they didn't? But what a lot of realtors don't understand is that no matter what contract that the offer is on, regardless, a buyer can change their mind, right? Because once you finish with the inspection, I'm going to say, well, either we're moving forward or we're not moving forward. So let's talk a little bit about talking about repairs, as you were talking about.
Yeah, so a lot of the things we're looking at is how old major systems are, how old is a roof, And then some of the other things they might be concerned about if there's something in there like aluminum wiring, if they have a very old furnace, if they have polybutylene piping. Some of these things are things that some people might not recognize, but we can pick up on those things pretty quickly and let them know that that's something they need to deal with before they move forward in most cases.
The age of the roof. Yeah.
Now, with the polybutylene pipe, a lot of people will ask about that. Is it expensive to replace? Now, do you
Yeah.
have like a little cheat sheet of something like that where you put on there says, okay, well, it's going to cost $10,000 to replace this. It's going to cost $1,000 to replace. Do you have like a little cheat sheet or something like that?
We can put an estimate on there. It depends on the layout of the house and how big it is. Some small houses might have the kitchen and the bathroom back to back. Then we're talking about $1,500 or something like that. But then if it's a bigger house and they got 4 or 5 bathrooms and it's all spread out, then it's more money. But a lot of the homes with polybutylene are older, although it did run into the 90s. And so you're really usually talking about 2 different bathrooms in the kitchen, and maybe one of those bathrooms is back to the kitchen. So $3,000 or $4,000 a lot of times is what we're looking at.
So now let's talk a little bit about charges. I know when people ask me how much does an inspection cost, I normally can't tell them because what I normally tell them is an inspection start by the square footage. But what's your basic charge? Like let's say it was a 1,400 square foot house. I know you charge by the square footage, but that's why I never give somebody a quote when I recommend an inspector.
We start out at $325, but if it's within Lake County, it depends on how far away. We go from both coasts, so it like we're doing one tomorrow in Tampa, so that's a little bit more expensive because of gas and tolls and things like that.
But we also put together some package prices because sometimes people are trying to buy a small older house because it's less expensive. The insurance company's making them get a 4-point and a wind mitt and a termite inspection. And so all this is driving up their cost of inspections without them necessarily wanting that. But so we try to put together a package price to try to keep that price down a little bit.
Okay. So okay, you say you drive to Tampa. From Tampa, you're in Lake County. So how long does it take you to get to Tampa? Because I'm trying to see how far out you drive.
Yeah, but this one here is actually south of Tampa. Where is that? Do you remember?
Valcarce or something like that.
Valrico.
Yeah.
We've gone an hour and a half. I mean, we've been over to Merritt Island, places like that. I mean, if you got a big enough house, we'll go down to Key West.
Okay, I got you because I'm the same way too. So, if depending on the price point, I remember one time there was a price point. I just went and stayed in Cocoa Beach for the night. Even though Cocoa Beach is only an hour drive from me, but normally if it's something and it's a small house or you're looking at $250,000, I might drive about an hour out. I won't drive any further unless you have a specific house and you said, well, this is the house that I want to buy because I'm living in it or something like that, but not just to go look at houses, to drive out. But I'll drive about an hour out. I go as far as Ocala. I don't go to Tampa because I just think it's too far.
Yeah, we went to Apollo Beach 3 times for the same person. That's a good hour and a half.
Right. But if it's worth it, just like we said, we can, we will drive out or stay out if the price is worth it.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about a new person comes into the market and they know nothing about inspection. Let's talk a little bit about, what do you do with the inspection that you do? I sent you a client. How do you inspect the house? Talk a little bit about, inspecting the roof and little things like that, because I always tell them, a lot of people always talk about mold. They're afraid of mold in the house. Let's talk a little bit about, what kind of equipment do you use in order to inspect the house in order for them to be comfortable to say, well, you know what, there's no water behind the wall, or maybe the tile is falling off, but it's dry. Behind the wall is dry because there's no water, because you use an infrared camera or something like that.
Yeah, so we're working with the customer and we're seeing where they're at, and if they're new and they're nervous, then we're constantly talking to them about what we've inspected. So the more they know, the less scared they are. And it's just a truism that you can count on. So you know that every time you inspect something, you talk to them about it, and then they feel more and more comfortable. And after a while, you usually see all the stress go away, and they realize that it's not that scary of a thing, and it's a big thing for them. But once you get it whittled down to size, then they feel more comfortable. So that's a big part of the process is seeing where the buyer is and working with them to relieve their fears if that's all there is to it. And a lot of times that's what it is. They're just scared, and so you try to talk to them and basically tell them exactly what's going on, and then instead of ignoring them, you got to talk to them, and then they do start to relax, and everything goes smoothly from there usually.
And every buyer is different. We'll go to houses and we'll think it's not up to us to tell them that they passed the inspection. They'll ask us that, but it's up to them to decide. And we'll say, oh, they should walk away from that house. And then we find out they buy it. And then ones that we think are great, they walk away. So every buyer is different.
Yeah. So all you do is just do the inspection and let them make their own decision. I'm the same way when it comes to the inspection as well. What I do is when you send the inspection report out, what I tell them is say, go through the inspection with you and your spouse or whatever, and let me know if there's anything that you want to be fixed on it. And then if there's anything major, then I tell them, I says, okay, I will go back to the seller and negotiate it. But if it's something simple like the carpet has stain on it or something like that, then we will say no. They're not going to clean the carpet, but how comfortable do you make them feel when they're asking questions, because they're so new? And I tell them not to follow the inspector around, because I want the inspector to do a good job for them, and I want them to be able to understand what it is. Once you're finished, you go back and explain to them the different things that needs to be done on the house, compared to them following you around and bothering you and things like that. Even though I said you're paying them, so make sure you ask them all the questions that you need to know, because when I send my clients to you, okay, because I use more than one inspectors, but sometimes you are my family inspector. That's what I call it, because, we've been family for a long time, and all my family members are the ones I recommend my family members to, because you guys have taken such good care of me, and my family. And no matter what I call you for, you're always there. Now, when I send my clients out to you, I always tell you, make sure that you're doing a 4-point inspection if it's needed. Make sure you're doing a WINMIT, because I don't want you to go back out, because majority of the insurance company now are wanting those things. They wanted either a WINMIT or a 4-point or something like that. And then there's also a termite, depending if it's FHA. So those are always, even if you don't do the report right away, making sure that you gather all the information. So when I call you back and says, hey, the insurance company needs a 4-point inspection, or they need a WINMIT or something like that, because right now it seems like every insurance company needs it right now. It just seems like it.
Yep. So if you're talking about the people, there's just different ways to handle that. They want to follow you around. It's really difficult for that to happen, and a lot of times there's 2 of us on the job. So a lot of times Mona will work with the person, but if I'm going up on the roof, they're not going to follow me up on the roof or something like that. So, but if they just want to ask questions, then usually I say, well, let me look at these things first, and then we can talk about them. And, but we, at the end of the day, we want to make sure they ask every question they want to ask. And then we ask them, are you happy with the inspection, or is there anything that's unanswered before we leave? Let's address that now. We don't want questions later, or we don't want you to say later, oh, well, you didn't say anything about this. No, let's talk about it now. Let's if you think you didn't see something, let's go look at it right now. We'll go talk about it.
Yeah, a lot of times they think cosmetic items go in the report, but they don't.
What goes in the report?
Cosmetic items don't go.
Oh, okay, I got you. Yes, that's what I was saying about the stained carpets.
Yes.
Yeah. They don't understand that. But you've been my inspector ever since I first got into real estate, and I'm in real estate now 15 years. And you have taught me so much. You have sent me so much referral. and that's what this show is all about. Everyone that's on here, they are using you, or if not, we're divvying out the referrals, sending out referral, because that's what this community is all about, to make sure that we're helping each other to build each other business. And every week it's a different topic or something. If anyone that's on here ever want to come on for an entire show, all you got to do is just let me know where you can come on, and you can talk from start to finish. Usually I run the show for about an hour. But if you ever want to come on and you said, okay, I want to come on and I want to talk 45 minutes about inspecting, remember, feel free. Okay, so I'm into about 15 minutes into your time right now. Now, is there anything that I didn't ask you that you need to be able to tell someone that I sent to you that's getting an inspection?
No, the only other thing I'd say is that depending on where it is, if it's out in the country and you're on a well, then you might need a water test. So we'd like to take care of that when we can. If it's a VA loan, they're going to require a termite inspection. So these different things are good to know ahead of time. Let us know if it's a conventional loan or if it's an FHA, USD, or VA loan. And that helps us to know what the appraiser is going to ask for and what the loan officer is going to ask for. And we can make sure those things aren't missed because we didn't know it was happening. So that, and sometimes things are negotiated ahead of time, like the seller's going to replace the roof. Well, obviously, I don't want to get on the roof. I know it's going to be replaced, but if nobody says anything, then I get up there and I'm like, oh my goodness, this roof is terrible. And so just anything like that I should know about. Sometimes nobody says anything, and it'd be good to know ahead of time.
Yeah, speaking of roofs, if we get there and we realize that the roof is beyond its useful life, we will let them know, or they can talk with their realtor to make sure that if they can't afford to get it fixed, that it's going to be fixed so they can get insurance to buy the house, instead of making them spend all that money for all these unnecessary inspections.
We got to try to jump over these hurdles when we see one and see, is there something that can be done to get past this issue? We found one time, and this is extremely rare, where a septic tank, the drain field was saturated, so the toilets were not flushing properly. And they already worked it out while we were there to get a check cut to a septic tank company at closing through escrow, so that issue was resolved. So these things can be worked out, right, if we know about it quick enough, and people, get on the phone and try to get some of these issues resolved so that the house can be sold.
Yes, I just had one like that where the roof was bad. So
people want the house. Let's get it done.
Yeah. Now with the well tests, for the well, do you actually gather the water and send it to be tested?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I'm actually doing one. Actually, I did one last Thursday, and it came back. It had E. coli. So then, now they'll negotiate.
Well, they probably have to flush the well. They'll probably have to bleach the well.
Yeah. Water tests, and they can only be done Monday through Thursday and up to 3:00. And they can't be done before if next day is going to be a holiday.
Now, do you actually bring the water to the company?
We take it to the lab and to Barry's.
All right, take it to okay, very good. Good to know that. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. We've done water tests for water main breaks, the VA clinic in Claremont. We've done apartment building. So in emergency situations, we can take it into Orlando on Saturdays and get it done as well.
Okay, that's good to know. I learned. You see, that's why I do these shows, because I don't know all of that, and I'm learning today.
And another important thing about water testing, you want to have the mortgage broker in writing tell you what water tests are we going to require, because every one of them, even though they're VA, they'll all require different things, or we'll do the water tests and they'll come back, oh no, we need this instead of that.
But the only thing we really need to know is if they need a lead test, then that's 10 days. So we got to know that ahead of time. Otherwise, the results will come back and they'll be, where's the lead test? Well, you didn't ask for one. So
right.
That's an unusual item, but we do see it occasionally. And the sooner we know, the better.
Actually, I had one Thursday that wanted to find out if we had arsenic. I never heard of it, but they do it, and they do find it rarely though.
Wow, that's awesome. We have a lender on here, so we're gonna eventually have her talk. So okay, so we're coming up on the end of your time now. Any
Thank
last
you.
minute
Appreciate it.
words? I appreciate you guys for coming.
Thank
You can stay on a little bit if you want to, or you can log off when you're ready. And
I appreciate it.
I
Thanks,
appreciate. Thank you
guys.
so much. I've learned so much just from the 20 minutes that you were talking. I've learned a lot. Even though you've been my inspector for all these years, but just asking you all these questions, sitting down, because normally I'm not sitting down and questioning you. Normally I'm just sending the clients to you, or you come in the office and you talk or give a presentation. But that is awesome. I appreciate you guys, and I thank you guys for so much for what you do and what you
And
do
we
in the
appreciate
community.
you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Much
Bye.
blessings. Bye bye. So, Andy, you're going to be up. I have Michelle. I'm going to have Michelle talk after Andy. Andy, you're up. Welcome. It's good to have you. And you're going to be talking about real estate investing. So jump right in. Let me unmute you so I can hear you. Go ahead. There you go. Am I unmuting the wrong person? Hang on. There you go. Hang on. You're not unmuting for some reason. Is something wrong?
Okay.
Can't unmute the guest.
Now can you hear me?
You're okay. Now I can hear you. They were telling me your mic was not connected. Okay.
Well, that's weird. How are you doing this evening?
I am doing fantastic. Welcome to the show. This is like awesome. Like I was telling the inspector, if you ever want to come on and talk for more time, where you have more time to talk, feel free to book a time with me. I'd be happy to book your time. So jump right in and tell us something about real estate investing.
Well, I think there's two different kinds of real estate investing. One is the fix and flip type properties, which is what all the TV shows are about right now. And that's the hot topic. But I don't really think of that as investing. And the reason I say that is because that's kind of a job. You've got to constantly be looking for your next deal. You've got to, supervise your contractors. And then the minute you have a closing, you get a nice big fat check deposited in your bank, but you wake up tomorrow morning and you got to go find another deal or you're out of business. So you've kind of just built yourself a job. It can be a very high paying job, but it's still a job. The other type of real estate investing is where you buy rentals and you're holding them for long-term cash flow and income. And the checks might be smaller, but you're going to get those checks for the rest of your life if that's what you choose to do. And I look back at properties that I sold 20 years ago, and yeah, I might have made $20,000 by selling it. But if I had kept that property by now, I would have made so much more than $20,000 and I would still have it for the rest of my life. So what I always say when I'm teaching people about how to be a real estate investor is I say, you need to look at your own financial situation. I'm a big proponent of doing a household budget so you know exactly where you're starting. But you've got to figure out where you are financially and what you need right now. If you don't know how you're paying your own rent or mortgage payment tomorrow on May 1st, you don't really need to be worried about rentals right now. You need to go flip a couple houses and you need to build up a nice little cash cushion so that you've got, the emergency fund if something happens. What if somebody gets sick? What if somebody gets hurt? What if somebody gets laid off of their job? So I personally think that you've got to look at your situation, look at your budget. The other reason we want a budget done is because our goal is to help you build a passive income that will replace any other income you have. And we see you as kind of succeeding in this goal if your passive income from your rental properties completely pays all of your normal budget bills. So if your budget bills are $8,000 a month and you have rental properties that are cash flowing $8,000 a month, that is true financial freedom because you don't have to go to work if you don't want to. Mm-hmm. Now, if you keep working, that's just a bonus because you're going to make extra money. And that's how that's where you get the vacation funds, the extra stuff that you want to do. But also in our case, what we do is we take all that extra money and roll it right back into buying more properties to build that cash flow up. That's kind of where that's what we're working on. And that's what we've been working on for quite a while.
Now, where are you located?
I live just outside of Orlando. I live in an area called Sanford.
Oh, Sanford.
However, the beautiful thing about real estate is it doesn't have to be in your backyard.
No.
Because some of the people listening, you might be in an area where rental properties are very easy to find and they're very inexpensive. Like in the Midwest, you can pick up properties for $30,000, $40,000 that you can immediately put a tenant in that's going to make a great cash flow. Other areas, right now in Central Florida, you're not getting anything under 200,000, and those probably aren't even that great of properties that you're finding.
Correct.
Looking parts of California, you might be looking at $600,000 or $700,000 for a little teeny tiny shack. So look at your market first, because it's definitely easier if you're in your own market. But if your own market doesn't give you the return that you want, and I'm all about numbers. I don't get emotionally involved in these houses. This is numbers. I just look, how much is it going to cost me? What repairs does it need? How much can I rent it for? So we've expanded now to Georgia.
Okay.
We just bought our second one in Georgia about 10 days ago, and I'm driving up there this week. Actually, I'm kind of waiting for my realtor to message me because she's supposed to be previewing 3 more for me today that we might put an offer in on.
Well, congratulations. That's awesome.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So what made you want to get involved in investing? Just so you can be, just like you said, be your own boss, or just to fix and hold, so then therefore it becomes an income for you. So then therefore, just like you said, if you don't want to work, you don't have to work.
Well, we did our first property. I've been investing since 1998. So I've been doing this quite a while. When we started, we were in our 20s, and retirement and income replacement, those weren't things we were worried about. So at our younger years, we were doing more fix and flips and repairs, and we would keep a rental property here and there. In hindsight, I wish we had kept way more of them, because we would be totally in a different situation than we are today. But we're good. We're what's called out of the rat race. If you've ever read any Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yep.
So we're at that stage where our rental properties cover our bills in full. We're just working on building that a little more, because we want the extras. We want the travel. We want to not worry about things. And you've got to make sure you've got some reserve cash, because the more properties you own, the more emergencies can come up. For example, I'm down to 5. I owned 8 condos in Daytona Beach that just went through Hurricanes Ian and Nicole.
Mm-hmm.
We had some huge expenses, 6-figure expenses in those buildings. So we've sold off 3 of them already, for different reasons, because I'm trying to move some money around and probably do a development up in Georgia. That's kind of our next thing that we're looking at, is doing some development deals. But that's, if somebody didn't have reserve money to pay expenses such as, you need a new roof on a property or something like that, then that's when you start having to go borrow money and getting into the bad debt. We like leverage in our real estate, but we don't condone taking on a lot of bad debt.
No, we're having issues with condos, right now because of what happened in South Florida. So how many condos do you presently own now left over in Daytona Beach?
We're down to 5. I just sold the 3rd one 2 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
And the condo situation in Florida is going to get worse before it gets better. So over the next 2 years, honestly, we've never been real big on condos at all. The only reason we ended up going into these is because Daytona Beach is very strict on short-term rentals. And these couple of buildings that we've invested in allow the short-term rentals. So we've actually been running those as vacation rentals. But other than that, I'm not a huge proponent of condos as investments.
Yeah. And just like you said, it's going to get worse before it gets better, because a lot of these condo people are not going to be able to afford, to fix or, or whatever, to get the inspection, you know, in order to for the property. So a lot of these, yeah, just like you said, and we're it's going to be a fight. It's going to be there's going to be a lot of turmoil going on with that condo stuff now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But
So.
there's other reasons too why we don't personally like to invest in condos. One, personally, I'm kind of an independent gal, and I don't like people telling me what to do. And in condos, you've got a condo board that gets to tell you what to do.
Yes.
And if I'm investing my money there, I don't like that. But the other thing that a lot of people don't realize, like, forget the vacation rental. Let's look at just buying a condo to make into a regular old, you know, annual lease rental. To a tenant, does that condo look any different than an apartment?
No, I mean,
No.
not to me.
No, you drive in through a gate to a bunch of big buildings. You have to park somewhere not by your house. You have to walk somewhere to get your mail, you know, all these different things. To a tenant, it looks like an apartment complex.
Right.
The challenge is the apartment complex up the street is offering 2 free months. We'll waive the security deposit and give you a free big screen TV if you move in and sign a 1-year lease. I'm not willing to do that on my properties. I don't have that kind of budget like these big apartment buildings do. So to a tenant, I don't look any different than the apartment building. They're just going to go next door and sign a lease at the apartment building.
Mm-hmm. Right.
If I have a house that's, you know, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath with a garage and a fenced yard, I'm not competing with the apartment building. People look at my house and they see value in being in their own house without sharing walls with neighbors and being able to park in the garage and being able to let their dog in the backyard. So when you've got a single family residence, you're selling to a different type of tenant clientele, and they're more likely to stay put longer because turnover in a rental property is expensive.
Mm-hmm.
It costs you money every time you have tenant turnover. For starters, you usually lose at least a month. By the time you get one person out and come back in and clean behind them and fix whatever needs fixing and then show it to prospective tenants, usually you lose a month. So
Yeah.
right off the bat, you've just lost, 8% of your annual income. Boom.
That's why I don't understand why the apartment people does it. They keep raising the ones that are in there for 10, 15 years. They keep raising their money and then they advertise to get new people in. I cannot understand that.
I don't know. But the other thing is, if you have a tenant that stays in your property for 4 or 5 years, you don't, other than major repairs that come up, you know, the air conditioner breaks, you're not fixing all the little stuff because frankly, they broke it. So they're living with it. But if you have a turnover every year, you're going to have to go in and do touch-up paint every time, maybe replace flooring, you know, maybe fix kitchen things that they broke. If they stay a long time, you don't have to do all that as often.
Now, what would you tell? I know you said that you would if you were younger and you had bought it, you started in your 20s, you would hold on to some of the properties you wouldn't have sold. What would you tell your younger self if you were starting now in your 20s?
Do whatever you can to keep rentals. And it's easy to do. You can flip 1 or 2 and then use that money as the way to keep the third one. And then go flip 1 or 2 more and use that money to keep the next one. So you could very easily build a nice little portfolio of properties in a matter of a couple years. And if all anybody ever did, the only thing you did differently is buy your own house that you live in, but also buy 1 more property as a rental. And that's the only thing you ever did different, is bought 1 rental property in your 20s and kept it. By the time you hit your 50s, it's going to be paid off. So you've got no expenses other than just your taxes and insurance and maintenance. But it's also over those 30 years, how much is it appreciated? I mean, we just sold one in January. We bought it, I think exactly 10 years ago. We bought it for like $35,000 and I just sold it for $225,000.
Woo!
And that's just in 10 years. Imagine if I had held it for 20 more years.
Wow.
But here's the cool thing. And I just like getting people's little wheels turning. And I want you to think of all the different possibilities. When I sold that one, I didn't get $225,000 cash. I sold it with owner financing. So I now make $980 a month as the bank. They pay me a mortgage payment every month for $980, but I don't ever have to fix anything ever again.
Yes.
Isn't that awesome?
That is awesome. That's pretty cool.
I know.
Good for you.
I love this stuff. I love real estate investing. I love sharing it with people. I love showing them what can be done. We're in the middle right now of actually repositioning a lot of our properties. We're selling some off and doing what's called a 1031 tax deferred exchange into other properties.
Yes.
So we're selling one and we're buying two with the money.
Okay, cool.
Or we did one 2 years ago. We sold one house and bought 3 of those little condos with the money. So if you can sell one and buy 2 or 3, you could theoretically turn 10 properties into 20 or 30 just by moving stuff around, and you're done. You're retired. You don't ever have to work again if you don't want to.
I want to get you back on the show to do like a longer thing where we're spending time from when somebody's investing, they started investing from the top, from the start to the finish, to kind of just explain, because this right here is going to be on LinkedIn and it's going to be on YouTube. So to stay out there, but then at least we can share it to other people to say, hey, if you're thinking about investment, Andy would tell you from start to finish how to jump into it and what not to do, because she have already learned all of that stuff. So that's really awesome.
Absolutely. You say when and I'm in.
That is really, really great stuff. Now, is there anything that we didn't talk about that you think that somebody that's newly investment, because we're talking about people who are not people who are seasoned, but people who are newly getting into the investment, whether they're buying and holding or buying and flipping or something like that. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you think that they need to know today?
I think one of the biggest things, I have an acronym that I like to use when I'm talking about real estate. Real estate is what we say is the ideal investment, IDEAL. And what that stands for is income, which we already talked about. There's 2 different ways you can have income in real estate. The D is depreciation, which we haven't even talked about yet. We get to tell the IRS that our properties are losing money, even if they're not really. Mm-hmm. So it can help your tax bill. Like literally you could make $10,000 a year on this property, but tell the IRS that you lost $10,000. So you actually broke even and you pay no taxes. So super cool, the power of depreciation. The E is equity. Equity is growing. Your tenant is paying down your mortgage. So your equity is growing based on the mortgage pay down. But also the A is appreciation. Like the example I said, 10 years ago, we bought it for 35 and we just sold it for 225. So if that's all you ever did was bought a couple houses now and then sold them in 30 years, you'd have a ton of money just sitting there just based on the appreciation.
Wow.
And then the L is leverage. Real estate is one of the few investments that you can do literally with none of your own money. So you can borrow money from the bank. You can borrow money from a family. Yeah, OPM. Other people's money. Yeah. You can borrow from a bank. You can borrow from a mortgage company. You can borrow from what we call private money lenders. You could borrow from a friend or a family member. You could bring in a partner on the deal. You're giving up half the profit, but you might not have any pennies in your pocket, but you find somebody that does. So isn't half of a deal better than having to pass on a deal?
Yes. That's the same thing in real estate. Isn't giving a referral and getting 20% or whatever, 30% of it, isn't it better than not getting anything? You're right.
Yeah. And then I just recently added another letter to ideal. I've added the letter Z, ideals. Mm-hmm. The Z is for zero. And what my husband thought I meant by Z for zero is you can do it with zero of your own money, which is absolutely true. What I was thinking is your investment will never go to zero. If you go buy $100,000 worth of stock and then tomorrow that stock declares bankruptcy, your $100,000 investment is worthless. It's worth zero. If you invest $100,000 in opening a new business or a franchise and that business fails, you not only lost 100,000, but you probably lost a bunch of other money too, because you probably borrowed more during the time trying to like salvage the deal. But in real estate, you're never going to have it go to zero. The house could burn down. If you have insurance, you're going to get paid. You might not get paid the whole 100,000. You might get paid 80 or 90, but it's still way better than zero. Or you forgot to renew your insurance and the house burned down. You still have the lot. Maybe you can sell the lot for 20,000. Yeah, it's not 100,000, but it's still 20,000 is way better than zero. So if your real estate is managed properly and you have the proper insurance and you have the proper people paying attention to it for you, you should never have an issue. It should never go to zero. Absolutely never. And even like we experienced, I guess it's like 15 years ago now, it's so long ago, where we had properties where the values were just tanking. Again, they never went to zero. They always had some value if you were in a position that you had to sell. But if you're buying it as investment, monthly rental income property, I don't care if my house goes from 200 down to 40. As long as I've got a tenant in there paying me every month, it doesn't matter what it's worth.
Right.
All that matters is, do I have a tenant that's paying me every month, and am I covering my underlying mortgage payment?
Awesome. You hear it from a real estate investor that started investing in their 20s. Now, Beverly, do you have any question for Andy?
Oh, yes. I have Andy. When you invest, like you said, you're going to Georgia. Okay. How difficult it is to find somebody to manage those properties in Georgia while you're living in Florida?
So what I've been doing is asking for referrals. So the real estate agent that was helping us find properties, I asked her for a referral to a property manager. And then I also went into the Facebook group for that area, and I asked for referral in the community Facebook group, and the same guy's name came up like 3 or 4 times. Not only did my realtor give me his name, but several other people mentioned his name too. So to me, that's a good start. And, we'll try it out. If it doesn't work, then I'll start over. It may not be the best manager, but it's a start. It's getting us started. Maybe at some point where I have multiple properties all in the same area, I will self-manage. I self-manage all of my stuff that's here local. I self-manage all of my vacation rentals. So at some point, if I end up with, 10 properties all in that same area, I might just go ahead and once I've got my handyman team, my plumber, my electrician, all my basic people in the area, I may try self-managing at that point. Honestly, where we're investing is only about 3.5 hours from home. So it's not that far. We have another one in North Georgia that's like 9 hours away. That one's a little different.
All right.
Yes,
awesome.
I like your acronym.
Awesome.
Very good. Yes.
Thank you so much, Andy, for joining us. You can stay on. We have Michelle, and just in case anyone else have any other questions, we have Michelle is our lender, and we're going to have Michelle talk. And Michelle, if you have any question for Andy as well, feel free. But one of the things that I want to ask Michelle is the inspector that was on, they were talking about inspections. And now, do you normally tell the buyer what kind of inspection do you think that they need depending on the loan? Let's start off there, and then you can take it from there.
Hello, your voice matters. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
I can hear you.
Happy Sunday to everyone. So as you know, the inspection is optional. It's the appraisal that is mandated by the lender. So basically, it's the buyer's, prerogative of what type of inspection they get to protect their asset that they're attempting to invest in.
Okay. All right. Now you can start off by telling us about the lending part.
So with the lending part, I'd like to start off with always telling folks that your realtor likes you to have a pre-approval in hand to not waste, their time or any party's time. So if we could start with the lender to see what your purchase power is and get that pre-approval in hand so you can give to your realtor to start shopping for you. Once you have that pre-approval letter and your realtor finds a home and the seller and the buyer agrees and signs that contract, then we can, start collecting that documentation and vet it that was supplied on the application, the financial documentation, tax returns, W-2s, pay stubs, investment statements, just to vet that everything that was applied or supplied on the application matches up to move closer to the underwriting approval. So during that time, we're looking at if there's any conditions that need to be met while, the appraisal is ordered, the inspection is ordered, and to make sure everything is lined in there to move forward to that clear to close.
That is awesome. Now, what do you tell people that are you send them a pre-approval for X amount? What do you tell people that are looking over their price limit? How do you work that?
That's interesting because we have a case right now. I mean, if you have the cash flow and you're approved for a certain dollar amount, whether it be an FHA loan or a conventional, if you have excess cash, you can definitely, add that to your approval. So it depends on what you want to, deplete, what cash funds you want to deplete if you do have them in hand. So I have a situation right now. There's a loan that's approved for $472,000, and between the buyer and gifted funds, they have about $100,000. So they're going to their approval so they can have $572,000 of buying power. So yes, that is not that is an option. If you have the cash, you don't have enough cash to pay full price, but you have cash to add, to a base point to what you've been approved for, you could definitely do that.
Okay. Now, what are some types of the loans? I'm located here in Lake County, Florida. What are some types of loans that you service?
Your traditional loans, pretty much, your basic, your common areas of being conventional, FHA, VA, and USDA. And that is something I'm really working on right now, Viv, with my realtors. A lot of people don't know, but 95% of the U.S. landmass is zoned USDA. So your concentrated areas, your densely populated cities like Orlando, for example. I'm from Chicago, LA, those pretty much are not going to be zoned USDA. But on the outskirts of those cities, you have rural areas. And USDA, when people hear USDA, they think of what do you think about when you hear USDA? I don't know.
I say cows. Farming.
Yeah, you think cows, you think meat inspection.
Agriculture, rural. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, the USDA does have a home loan program, and it's 100% financing. And so right there, your borrower is going to save half of what it would cost coming to the table for their closing costs. So the only other loan program, government loan program similar to that is VA. So if you don't have veteran status, you can definitely look at a USDA zone property. There are some, I guess you want to say cons, because it has to be, number one, in a certain area. And number two, you have to meet the USDA eligibility requirements, one being income. And then they have parameters, income per house, how many members per household. And then they have underwriting parameters, your credit score, and DTI, your debt to income ratio. So those are some things that you have to, get through those hurdles. But once you get through those, you can definitely save thousands of dollars with having 100% financing and just paying your closing costs. And then with the closing cost, depending on where you're buying the property, let's say it is zoned USDA, you can stack that and garner down payment assistance through the county, the city, or the state. And each of those entities have programs that are different. No down payment assistance program is created equal. So they all have their own requirements and so forth. But that is something that, as a lender, you should look at for your borrower, especially if they're cash strapped, of what resources are out there at those three entities, those three levels.
Now, let's talk about down payment and assistance and first-time home buyers. You were talking about stacking. Explain to the audience what stacking is.
Stacking is being able to double up, or hence the word stack, multiple down payment programs, contingent on if the programs will allow you to do that. For example, you can have money for, and I'm not saying this is the case because every down payment system program is created differently, as I said, are not equal. But you could use, maybe monies from the from Florida Housing, that's for example, and then maybe if they allow you to use something at the county level with it or at the state level, so they're together. Now, some of these programs will not allow you to do that, so it's contingent on to find out what they allow, but it can be done. So that's just basically stacking or doubling or adding to or supplementing the different down payment assistance programs at different entities. And you can also find grants maybe too. You can do your homework and see at the private level what grants may be offered. And what I wanted to share too about down payment assistance, that they're not created equal either, not from the source, but also the type of down payment assistance program. So down payment assistance comes in the form of loans that are repayable, second mortgages, grants where they're not repayable, deferred where, maybe a certain period of time that you don't have to pay it back, i.e. maybe not till the end of the term that is due, and then also some are forgiven.
Yeah, that's good stuff, because a lot of people right now, the rent is so high, and I'm glad that we have Andy on here, because the rent is so high for the people. So most people are electing, instead of because they're using the down payment assistance program, most people are electing to, probably if they can go that way and their credit is good enough. I just had a lender told me this week, two lender told me. One said they can go down to 500 credit score, and the other told me they can go down to 580 credit score. When I said, I think I posted something on Facebook that says, "Hey, I got great news. I just had some great news this morning." And I says, a lender just told me they can go down to 580 credit score. And then another one tapped in on that and says, "What was the great news?" I said, "The lender just told me they can go down to 580 credit score." He said, "Well, just to think I can go down to 500 credit score." And I said, "Wow, really?"
Yeah.
That's like mind blowing. I mean, what kind of interest rate are you going to get when you're down to 500 credit score? I mean, compared to what a down payment assistant, will allow you, maybe either 620 or 640 or something like that. So that's amazing to think that you can go down that low.
Yes, yes. The most conservative or the least conservative government housing program is FHA, and that is typically the 580. But some of these other programs, believe it or not, they don't even require a minimum credit score, but we have something what we call overlays, and overlays are the requirements that the lender may pose. And so, for example, USDA doesn't really have a credit score requirement, but most lenders, I'll speak for Move and Mortgage. I work for Move and Mortgage. We require 640, but you'll see that 620, 640, below 600, the lowest I've seen is 580. So if a lender is doing 500, that's their overlay, and I'm sure there's some costs to that are extra.
Okay, yeah, because there's always a lot of time we don't really know what goes on behind the screen. When somebody's talking about, yeah, we can do the 500, they're just putting that number out there. And we as realtor, we don't really know what goes on behind the scene, why you're able to do that. It's just like even with these grants and stuff like that, some of them, you pay them back when you sell the house, another after it proration, depending on how long you're inside that home. You might live in that home 10 years, and they might say, okay, well, this month falls off the loan. And by the time you reach the 10th year, they might say, okay, all of that is forgiven and you can pay it back. So you just never know. That's why I always tell a buyer, I said, always make sure that you're reading the documents that you're signing, because not everything is, it's the same thing for each person.
Exactly. And no down payment assistance program is created equal. They're all different. So a lot of the funds of down payment assistance programs in Florida come from SHIP funds, the State Housing Initiative Program. And I like them as the mothership. And they've given money to the counties and the cities and say, go forth, here's X million dollars, and you create your program for affordable housing or renovations and go from there. So a lender should be doing their due diligence if they, again, have a a buyer that's strapped to see, okay, what area are you looking at buying, and then researching on what's available at the city or county level. And a lot of times there's down payment assistance at both. So for example, if you live in Orlando, Orlando has, down payment assistance funds, and so does Orange County. Can those two be stacked, those different programs? So
talking about Orlando, I don't cut you. Talking about Orlando, can you remember to send me, because I'm teaching the first time home buyers class this week coming up, and it's Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And one of the person who helped me facilitate the class was asking me about the difference between Orlando and Orange County. So can you remember I know I met with Orange County at the beginning of the year and I talked to them, but I didn't meet with Orlando, but I met with Orange County. Can you remember to send me, do you have their contact information?
I sure do.
Remember to send me that. The Orlando. I do have Orange County.
Okay.
Because I was able to meet with them and have lunch with them one day at the beginning of the year. Once a year I meet with them so they can see, I can see what they have, and they're so kind to meet with me. And the office is out of Tampa, and I teach the class, but it's on Zoom. But the headquarters out of Tampa, where we help them with down payment assistance, closed costs. Because it is so important to help people get into home. That's why I want Andy to eventually come back on and talk about the investment part. Because once you buy your first home, then yes, just like she said, if you're at 20 years old and you buy a home at 20 years old and you keep it for 30 years or whatever, that house will be paid off, and you're paying yourself because that home is already paid off. So I want Andy to come back on and then teach us some more about that, where we're not in a rush, but she can come on and she'll have the most of the show, about 45 minutes to talk and kind of explain from top to bottom of how it is that they can purchase a home. And because I always tell people, real estate has so much wealth in it, and there's so much moving part to the real estate, whether it's the lending, whether it's the investing, whether it's inspection and things like that. There's just so much moving part. But I work with Michelle, and Michelle is an awesome lender. And what I like about Movement Mortgage, and my mom, bought her house through Movement Mortgage. But what I love about Movement Mortgage is that they take most of the file through the underwriter. So then therefore, if an issue comes up, you will already have that issue worked out already before you reach to the end. I can't take it when I work with a lender and they gather these little documents, or something is online or something like that, and you put this application in online and they tell you, yes, you're approved, and then all of a sudden you send them a contract, and here they're telling me, after you send them the contract, oh, well, such and such is not approved, but you gave them an approval letter. So why didn't you investigate that to begin with and check to make sure that they have everything, instead of the embarrassment of saying, hey, this realtor's got to put your property back on the market because you didn't do your due diligence and check out to make sure that like with you were talking about, the person has the extra money inside the account, so they have it, and you solicit their document, if they were making an offer for more than whatever the offer was. But guys out there, we have to do our work. We have to do it diligently. We're here to service the public and protect the public. And that's what it's about. And I like a certain mortgage company, like I like your mortgage company, because they do that. They do that, and we're supposed to do that and help people. But I've closed on houses for Orange County where the buyer only had to come out of their pocket with a couple thousand. So that's what I like about the down payment assistance program. But a lot of people don't know about it, and I teach the class because I want people to learn about it. We have an average of about 30 something people to 40 people per and it's more than one class. They have 2 Spanish class and they have 2 English class. One Spanish is in Tampa, 1 English is in Tampa, and the one I teach is the English class in Orlando. But they also have the Spanish class where we help them. Right now, I know that Orange County is giving up to $50,000, and Osceola County is giving a whole buckload of money. But you have to be qualified. So let's talk a little bit about that. The qualification. When these people are qualified, what kind of income, like income to debt ratio or something that they need to have in order to be able to qualify for something like that?
I was going to go back. You said a mouthful there, Viv. I was going to go back and just share. Thank you for mentioning Movement Mortgage. Just really quick here. I love the company, and we're called what the industry is branding as impact lenders or impact lending. And what that means is that lenders, such as Movement Mortgage, that takes a vast majority, or not a vast majority, but a vast amount of their profits and invest it into the community. So for Movement, we give 40% of our profits go to the Movement Foundation, which builds charter schools in inner cities and community centers. And so primarily our headquarters is in Charlotte. So we have charter schools already in North Carolina and in Georgia, but the goal is to build hundreds, across the country in the next 10 years. Because we're in, and we can do that under the model of selling mortgages. And so with that said, that is our focus. So we also pride ourselves in making underwriting decisions quickly and efficiently. So we have something called a 671 model, where we will provide, once we have the contract in hand from the realtor, we will provide an underwriting pre-approval in 6 hours, and then 7 hours it will be actually underwritten, where we are looking at the financial documentation that they match what was on the application, as I mentioned earlier. And then once that's done, any conditions, we'll cite those for the customers to give to us, and then we have a 1-day close. So we realistically, in your testimony, as you mentioned, your mother, Viv, that we can close in 15 days or less, and we have, and we do.
That is really awesome. That's awesome. Is there anything I didn't ask you, to talk about? We talked about credit score, and not all credit score fit everyone. We talk about the different kinds of type of lenders, zero money down, whether it's a VA or USDA, FHA. How much percentage is down for the US for the FHA and the conventional?
Say that again, Viv. How much? Say that again. So
how much percentage down for the US for the FHA and also for the convention?
Gotcha. So for FHA, the down payment is 3.5%. And to answer your other questions, as far as debt to income ratio, let's use FHA as an example. On the front end, which is consider all the debts, the borrower's debts, excluding the mortgage, it's 46.99, and then on the back end, which includes all of a borrower's debt plus the proposed mortgage, is almost 57%, 56.99. So very
wow.
linked, as I mentioned, is the FHA with that low down payment of 3.5% plus closing costs. A lot of times people forget about the closing costs and just concentrate the down payment, but there's those categories that you have to bring together that consist of the closing costs.
So how much percentage with the down payment and the closing costs work out to be? Around 7?
Yeah, I would say, I like that 3.5% for the down payment. We know that's firm, and I would say add another, 3 or 4% for the closing costs. Yes.
Okay, and then of course we can ask for some seller's concession depending on how long it is on the market. Now, a lot of people, with the down payment, and a lot of people still need help with closing costs and things like that. But a lot of sellers, it's not really bad now, but a lot of sellers are still not giving. You'll find that some sellers will give it, and some sellers are lenient. Some sellers, I have sellers now where we'll put on a roof or something like that on a house or something like that. If you don't ask, you don't know.
Right.
It's for you to ask. But when I'm working with a lender, I like to say, tell the lender, okay, this is not the market for it. Or if not, I'll see some lenders, because I do get a lot of referrals. A lot of my business is referral, and they will send me referral out of California, and the lender is telling me to ask for something like 8%. I'm just telling it, listen, it's not in this market. Okay, you might ask back for a 3% or something like that, but that's probably the most you're going to get back. You used to, years ago, we used to get back 4, 5, 6%, but it's not that market right now. So we just have to go with whatever is in the market. We're still having a few multiple offers, not that many, but we still are having a few multiple offers. And like Andy was talking about, buying a house at $200,000. Right now, I have a cash buyer that's buying a house around that price. And she was telling us before you came on that a house at $200,000, it's like there's so much work that needs to be done on that house.
Yeah. You know what? It's kind of can be discouraging where we live, because the price points for homes, are high, 400,000 and up. But you can find, I'm closing on one this week. If you're open to, we were speaking about USDA loans. If you're open to living in a rural area, you don't need to be in the midst of city, then there are some possibilities. I'm doing a FHA manufactured new construction home loan on this week, and it was 192,000. So it's great. So it's a manufactured home. So it was built in a factory or a warehouse, brand new. Looks like a single family home on the inside, but on the outside you can see it's a manufactured home. But they moved it from the warehouse right to a lot, and the lot is retitled, and the loan or the land and the manufactured home is in one loan, and a borrower that's going in there for less than 200,000, new home.
No. Now, do you do mobile homes or just manufacture home?
Say that, no, a mobile home, some mobile homes. Yeah.
Okay.
On the program, yeah, some mobile homes. And if there's something that we can't do in your traditional Govy loans, we do have partnerships with that offer non-QM products or non-QM programs, so that aren't your traditional programs. So those are really convenient for like self-employed individuals, bank statement only loans, DSCR loans, for those talk about Andy here. If you've got, property, then you're using the rents, to make sure that they can be, that the rents can pay the mortgage, basically. So that's a DSCR product. So if we can't do it on the traditional side, we have a plethora of partners we work with that have alternative financing.
Okay, awesome stuff. Beverly, do you have any questions for Miss Michelle and Miss Andy? Let's carry on the conversation.
I do. You want me to ask a question now?
Go ahead and ask your questions.
Okay. Michelle, say for example, a business person. How do you handle that? Say for example, I give you my bank statement, and I give you a balance sheet, and I give you an income statement, but I don't deposit all my money. And when I do my income statement, I do not put everything on it, because I don't want the government to know what I earn. How do you handle that?
The borrower still has to qualify, still has to ATR, ability to repay. So if you have a borrower that is not a W-2 wage earner, and they're
not a W-2.
Sorry?
Not a W-2.
No, exactly.
And not 1099 either.
No, exactly. So I'm saying if you don't have a borrower, or if you do have a borrower rather, that is not a W-2 wage earner, or 1099 and self-employed, the example that you gave, they're still going to have to qualify to pay all of their debt comfortably along with the proposed subject property. And that's where, if that is the case, we can look at one of the non-QM products through one of our brokers, where we look at bank statement only loans, but that will only be beneficial if they are depositing all their money. But we won't ask them anything else. We have a bank statement only. When I say only, bank statement only, that's all we need. But in that instance, they're going to have to deposit everything that's in that particular situation. But the example that
they're not doing that.
Help. It's not going to help if they're not reporting, and they're basic self-employed and trying to go through the normal channels of getting a conventional FHA or USDA loan.
Yeah, so it's not advantageous to self-employed people not to put all their money in the bank. As soon as they earn, they put it. If they want to purchase properties, then they would try to put all their money in the bank. Even if they use it as drawings, so the people like you would know that they earn their money. Yes, and they pay their bills on time.
Right, correct.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Do you have any question for Andy?
I thought I asked Andy some questions already. Yes.
Andy, do you have any question for Miss Michelle?
I'm good right now.
Well, I thought of something else while she was talking that's really popular right now with the younger, the 20 somethings is what they call house hacking. So you're buying a house, maybe a 3-bedroom or a 4-bedroom house, and then you're renting to roommates. So, you might have a $1,500 mortgage payment. You have 2 roommates paying $800 each, and you're living for free.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
that can be your first property. And as Michelle knows, you could buy your first property using an FHA loan, take in a couple roommates, and then at some point later move into maybe a bigger house or a different house, turn the first one into a rental property, and go buy a new property for you, make the first one a plain old regular rental, rent it to somebody on a 1-year lease, and then maybe bring those roommates with you to the new house. So that's the way you can start building up at the beginning.
Absolutely.
Yes, I talk about that in my home buyers class sometimes. I tell them, I say, you can buy the house and you can go rent out. You can rent out 2 rooms out of the house and it'll pay your mortgage. So that's a great idea, Andy. I didn't even know that was the name of it, house hacking.
House hacking.
So now I have a name for it.
Or the other thing is to buy like a duplex or a triplex and you live in one and rent out the others. So it just depends on where, like here in Central Florida, we don't have a lot of duplexes and triplexes. They just never built very many here. Jacksonville has them. Tampa has them. We just don't here in the Orlando market. They didn't build much around here.
That's a great idea, Andy, too. I was just speaking to someone the other day, with college students, as soon as they graduate, they have that offer letter from their employer. We as the lender can use that offer letter, for their income. So if they can get a little money borrowed from mom and dad, or just for that, FHA loan for the down payment, and like you said, rent it out with some of your roommates that are also just starting with you, then the mortgage is paid. And then also, there's a down payment assistance program. They may not even have to borrow any money from mom and dad.
Wow, that's a cool thing. I didn't learn that new today. You can use the offer letter from the employer to make the offer. That's pretty cool to get the loan. Oh wow, that's something new.
And then for just our the general public that's working, this was just we're in the tax season. Save that tax. Your tax return can be that down payment or that closing cost, or it could just be the closing cost, because if you get a USDA loan, there is no down payment.
Wow. Yeah, this has been really awesome. We should really do something like this again, where maybe we'll schedule an entire afternoon and give each person enough time to talk. And Andy, I want to have you on, to come and teach these younger generation, how to, I do the Dave Ramsey thing, and he says that if you put $2,500 inside of account and leave it there, just like what you were talking about with the houses, if you leave it there and never touch it, you'll become a millionaire by the time you retire, just like you were talking about with those houses, buying those houses at 20 years old. And then when you have them for 30 years or whatever years you have them, and they're paid off, and then it's just income. You're living on income. So that's pretty good to know. And I had the opportunity, someone invite me to speak to a Christian high schoolers, 11th and 12th grade on Friday. And I was able to talk to them, and I was telling them this, and I gave them a copy of my buyer's book and things like that. And then I also, tell them, says, any one of you guys that want to be mentored in real estate or whatever it is, let me know. If you ever want to buy a house, let me know. I talked to them about the down payment assistant, but at that age, at their 18 years old, it's such a great age for them. I was talking to them about not getting bogged down into college loans, because I'm talking about student loans, because it prevents them from buying a house, because the loan is still there. I've known friends of my daughter that they came out of school with $80,000 in debt, so they're not able to purchase a home. So this has been really good. Is there any last minute things that you guys would add to the conversation?
I'd like to just bring up something. It's all well and good for the 20-somethings to learn this, but I want you to think of the 40s and 50-somethings that have no retirement plan, especially people who are self-employed and business owners, and we don't have 401ks, we don't have pensions to look forward to. 1 out of every 3 of our senior citizens is living basically at the poverty level.
Yes, yes, for sure.
And if you've ever looked at what your estimated Social Security payout is, well, for starters, they're estimating that Social Security is going to run out of money in, I believe, 11 years.
Mm-hmm.
So 11 or 13, I forget. Basically, it's right as I turn 65 is when Social Security is supposed to completely run out of money. So if you don't have a retirement plan in place and you're in your 50s and that's what you're looking at, is if you get Social Security, you can't live off of it. But it's time to start putting this plan together in place, because you can absolutely do this in a matter of a 5 to 8 year. You can do it in 1 year if you really just go hit it, but to do it at a nice steady pace, 5 to 8 years, you can have your retirement income built up and not have to worry about Social Security.
Okay. Yeah. Once when we're finished with this show, I'm gonna book you back on to come back on, and we'll spend the entire time, whatever time that we need, we'll spend talking about it to be able to help people, because just like I remember when I was young, I never understand it at all. But then, you see older people come in the grocery line, and people are always making jokes. But being from Jamaica, I don't make jokes like those, but people were always buying cat food. And then sometimes some people would make a joke and says, yeah, because they're not
eating the cat food.
They're eating the cat food, because they cannot afford, to buy groceries and stuff like that. So it's just an eye opener just to think that, just like you said, a lot of people, Social Security is not going to be there. And if it is there, that's why a lot of people, you see people are in Publix and they're bagging groceries or something like that, or they're working at Walt Disney World in security or whatever it is that they're working in, because a lot of times you retire and have to go back in order to work, because you cannot afford whatever it is. You can't afford your bills and things like that. So it'll be a great workshop to put together where, we can be actually teaching these people how to invest, how to start out the right way. So I am looking forward to that, where we can, be able to help people, and with Michelle, being able to whatever. Michelle, do you do investors loans?
Investor loans?
Yeah, like let's say they have a second home. So let's say they bought their first home and then they wanted to buy another home.
Yes. Second homes and vacation homes and investment properties. Yes.
Okay, very good, very good.
I think Andy just mentioned that a couple that sold an investment property in Georgia, and they have the capital gains, and it's going to be go ahead and reinvest it, and within I think it's 45 days into another investment property. So and that's what they're doing in Florida. Yes, we definitely do investment loans, and they have to be conventional. Those are conventional.
Conventional loan. Very good, very good, very good. But this conversation has been a great conversation, and I've learned a lot, and I'm happy that I was able to have you guys on the show today. And Beverly, you have any last question for Michelle and for Andy?
No, I'm good. I've learned a lot.
Yeah. So any last word, ladies? Okay, I'm just going to do some housekeeping stuff. Okay, so upcoming event, I have the first time home buyers class, which is Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. That's going to be going on. It's from 6:30 until 9 each night. So if you're looking at taking the first time home buyers class, where Michelle can help you get some down payment assistance, work on USDA, work on your credit and things like that. We had somebody that was supposed to come on for credit, but I'm not sure what happened. When I did the show live, I saw Facebook was telling me my thing was deleted or something like that. My show was deleted or something. So I have to go back in and check that. So I'm not sure if that's why she's not here. But if you're looking to buy a home and need the 8 hours class, I do teach that class, and you get that certificate, and it's good for 2 years. And if you're looking for a buyer's book or a buyer's guide, buyer's information, anything like that, I'd be happy to help it. You know what? Make it the best day of your life. You never know when it's your last. And then always remember, be great. Let's have some great conversation. Always remember, be paying it forward, because it's important for you to pay it forward. I thank you guys for watching. Viv the Caribbean team, preferred real estate broker selling the American dream here in Central Florida.
Thank you for listening. See you on the next episode of Your Voice Matters.